G'day, it's Chris. This is Flat Tank Journey. Welcome back to the shed. I got nickel plated parts. Bit excited, I'd have to say. If you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, you'll have already seen these. And I put up a YouTube short about them. They look pretty good. I'm pretty excited. I haven't subjected you to seeing me try to get the seat springs on or putting the nuts on the girder forks because that was a pain in the bottom. We're going to put a few parts on the Beezer and see how she scrubs up. It's looking pretty good. A warm day in the shed again and the aircon's running, so if you can hear it in the background, that's what it is. Let's get into it. Right, here's everything on the bench and yeah, everything looks good. Highlight of it for me might be the gear change lever. Now, I had an aluminium knob on the top and they've separated that off and then plated that separately, but it's polished up really, really well. These levers are not nickeled, they were chromed, that's how they came, and I didn't strip them and do them. I probably should have. Clutch activation arms, some nuts, front guard stays, top nut, rear brake rod, clevis, bolts, pieces, spring cover, selector, kickstarter. Kickstarter looks good. Oil cap looks mint. We did have a casualty though. We had a casualty in the aluminium topped fuel cap. That the guy didn't recognise as aluminium first. He put a magnet on it and the clips underneath were steel, and of course it stuck to the magnet. He plated it and the cap dissolved. So I have got another one with no clips on it, so I'll repair that. The bars, they look mint. Let's get them on the bike. Might make the bars the first job, I think. Now they should just slide through really easily. I still think they look like handlebars off a girl's bicycle, but you know, it is what it is. And they'll go through and look pretty good. Let's find the nut for the top. There we go. Let's find a spanner. Give that a little nip up. Now I didn't do a heap of nuts because I'm not nuts. It just costs too much. I did get the top nut plated because I think it's really prominent when you sit on the bike. You absolutely look at it, and if they're shabby, they look really bad. I'll grab the bolt that goes through. There's actually a special bolt, and the bolt has one side of it is flattened, and that goes through from that side. There's a flat spot, and it'll tighten up. And it has a special nut of its own with a shoulder on the back, and it looks pretty good too. You can see what a difference it makes, but it's not cheap. While we're looking at this side, we might as well try the levers on. These are levers that I bought for the project and intended to use them. Will I? Well, that's another question. We'll see how good they look. Little problem there. They're not going to tighten up enough around the bar, possibly because the bar's been linished down. They're going to need a little shim put underneath them. Let's see how the decomp lever goes. I don't really like the decompression lever, I'd have to confess. It is going to tighten up, wouldn't you know it? Let's try this one on the other side. I don't know whether you remember, but these were actually better quality levers that I bought. I didn't do my normal cheap as levers. I went a little further. I did buy 7/8 ones, they are correct, but they are proving just a little bit difficult, which is a bit disappointing. And that's it fully tightened up, but it's not grabbing, it's too loose. Probably need to cut a little aluminium shim to stick underneath. Or that's what I'm going to do. I don't know what other people do. I suppose I could grind down the gap and thin out the metal on the clamp, and that would give me more to clamp. But I don't really want to, because these are made offshore. I'm not actually sure how good a quality they are. They're certainly better than I've bought in the past. I'm going to cut a couple of aluminium shims, bring you back when I've done that. I'll see if I can do this without you even noticing. Now, the bar's got tight spots and loose spots with the lever. And weirdly, or not weirdly, I suppose, the tight spot, the loose spot, is right here on the bar. Now, I may have the levers too far around the bar, but it doesn't matter, they're not tight enough. I think the bars have been lineaged back at least once, and so the 7/8 levers don't fit. I don't think it matters what I do, but maybe you've got another solution. Here's mine. Like it, don't like it, it's okay, I'll get over it. It's an aluminium can, cut to the width, or just under the width of the clamp. And it's folded in on itself, so you can't see. And then the join is at the bottom of the clamp. And I slid it in, slided it, and then loosened it off. And that way, I got enough space to slide it over, or at least I did on the other side. I'll have to loosen off the bottom as well. I assure you it does work. I did the first time. There we go. Now, the only difference between me and other people is I'm prepared to tell you what I did. Because I actually think this probably happens reasonably regularly. And this isn't the first set I've had to shim. And I doubt it will be the last. And you wouldn't think, I did try one layer of aluminium can and it wasn't enough. You wouldn't think that aluminium can would make that much difference, but it does. I'm going to get a better screwdriver, tighten these up. Let's have a look. Right, a little bit better screwdriver. That one's had the life beaten out of it by me. And that's really tight. The aluminium's soft enough that it crushes it, and you just end up with what I would call a better result. I'm going to have to put that decompression lever somewhere else, perhaps there. And I think that's probably a reasonable outcome. Is it perfect? No. I have got some brass shim stock here that's a little bit thicker, and if I don't like it, I'll use the brass shim stock. But for now, that's going to do for me. And, you know, they're tight. They are now. Good result. I want to get these stays back on the front guard and start looking to tension up the front guard to where it belongs. They had a little bolt go through them. No little stainless bolts. Let's get the other side on. So, you know, I deliberately tried to avoid too much nickel on this, mainly to keep the cost down, because the costs sort of get out of control really fast. But I think that is worth it. I'm going to get a spanner, tighten all this up, put little nuts on the top. There's the stays, back in the bike. They're a bit fiddly. You're lucky you're getting the edited version of this. They're fiddly to get back in. I had to get my hands jammed up in here, and now there's a tyre on, a little bit harder. Let's move on, do something about the rear brake rod. The brake rod's not overly complicated. I got a clevis plated, a locking bolt, and everything. So it should just slide back into place. I think there's... Yep, there we go. Looks like I had to remove the footrest to get it into place, so let me do that. Actually, these footrests, I still haven't pinned them in place, so it can just come out. Gonna need a screwdriver. And that's really long because it goes through, and it's not threaded through the pedal. It's only threaded out the other side. And then I actually put a locking nut on the back of it. There we are, looking in at that clevis, locking nut on the back, little spring washer, and I believe the correct bolt going through it. If I had my time again, I might have got that spring and the associated stuff off the brake pedal nickel plated. As it stands now, I think I'll just get it painted. Moving on, there's the brake rod. Let me get the nut and the locking nut on the end of that. I did have to chase the threads on that rod to get everything to screw on nicely and to behave. And so, you know, there's a potential for a little bit of rust there. Let me test that. And that's looking good. Let me pop a locking nut on the end of that. Rightio, I'm in a bit of clean-up mode because I've got everything installed. While you've been gone, or while I've been gone, I managed to get the gear change lever, the clutch actuation arm, and the kickstarter and the spring cover installed. However, in my efforts to keep all my parts safe and secure, I've misplaced the spring and the selector stop for the gear change lever. Now, somewhere in this shed are those parts, and I can't find the cotter pin either. The rest of it, it looks really good. Wasn't overly sophisticated, and I haven't done a lot of work this week, but I wanted to show you anyway. Let's have a squeeze. So the last you saw of me, I was just tightening up the nut, the locking nut on the wing nut for the brake rod, and that came out really well. Then I went on and put the selector mechanism, I suppose. It has recesses in the top, and I bolted that on. Then the gear change lever. Now, it's fabulous. I grant, I think the knob should be black, but I don't have the Bakelite one, and I like that. I'm a bit of a sucker for nickel plating and chrome plating. the clutch rod or the clutch actuation arm. Not difficult to get on, and I've got a adjustment bolt and that in there, and I believe I have the original mounting screw. Not sure. Kickstarter. Well, we actually have the correct Kickstarter. Spring cover and spring. I made a new pedal for it, and whether or not you think that's correct, well, I don't really mind. It kind of looks good to me. The gear change lever, well, it should actually sit more up like that. But without the spring and the stopper, it doesn't. I need to find it. Springs on the seat, fuel cap, or oil cap to be more precise, and I've found a fuel cap, and the bars. All looks great. And then, somewhere in all of that is the collar pin, a spring, and a little stopper that slides in and out. I just got to find it. There you go. That's my flat tank journey for this week. I haven't done a lot. It just is what it is. The nickel plating, well, I really love it, but it was a lot of money. And I suppose, if I'm honest, it was more than I wanted to spend. But it is what it is. I will find the parts that I've put away for safekeeping, or I will get others. It's not the end of the world. It's a spring and a little plunger that helps you select the right gears. And the collar pin was only something I bought. I actually have another one, but I machined this one to fit. So I just need to get on and do that. Other than that, it looks like a motorbike. I need to decide what I'm going to do with the throttle. I don't want a lever operated throttle. I think I'm going to buy a more modern, say 40s, 50s, twist grip for 7/8 bars and a pair of grips. And it'll go on and it'll all mount up really easily. Won't be exactly right, but it's going to be close enough. The engine, well, it's big. Well, it's been a big project. The crank's back in, the piston's back in. It has new valves, new guides, new springs, and new timing gear, and an oil pump, or an oil pump sight feed bowl, but I have broken 2 of them, getting them out and back in. So that's a bit of a tragedy. It is almost finished. We're waiting for the armature on the magneto to come back, and then we'll have a complete engine. Not too far now. In the meantime, have a good one.